silale mawe elakho mnganwa elakho mnganwa elakho mnganwa awungelakho mnganwa oma yaqeda impolompo awungelakho mnganwa elakho mnganwa Lomtongazocabanga ukuthi uyazi ngandakazi lutho owaziyo kwenzeke
Beautiful rain, don't disturb me. Beautiful rain, oh come, never come. Oh come, never come. Oh come to me. Beautiful rain, oh come, never come. Oh come, never come. Oh come to me. Beautiful rain,
Rain.
rain, 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 rain. Beautiful rain,
Rain.
rain, 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 rain. Beautiful rain, oh come,
Never come.
oh come,
Never come.
oh come to me. Beautiful rain, oh come,
Never come.
oh come,
Never come.
oh come to me. Beautiful the sun says good night to the mountain, I am dreaming of the sun. Said good night. When the sun says good night to the mountain, I am dreaming of the sun. Said good night. When the sun goes down, the birds on the trees are singing sweet for the night. When the sun says good night to the mountain, I am dreaming of the sun. Said good night.
When the sun goes down, the birds on the trees are singing sweet for the night.
When the sun says good night to the mountain, I am dreaming of the sun. Said good night.
When the sun goes down, the birds on the trees are singing sweet for the night.
When the sun says good night to the mountain, I am dreaming of the sun. Said good night. Rain.
Rain, 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 beautiful rain.
Rain.
Rain, 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 beautiful rain. Oh, come,
Never come.
oh, come,
Never come.
oh, come to me, beautiful rain.
Tula tula mama, tula tula wena sithando sami, engabukhalelani. Tula tula ngizoshesha ukubuya, tula wena sithando sami, tula tula, tula sithando sami, tula tula, tula tula wena mntanami, engabukhalela ngizobuya mina. Tula tula, tula tula mama, tula tula, tula tula baba, sengizobuya ngibuye masinyane, masinyane ngizobuya masinyane, masinyane ngizobuya masinyane, ngizobuya, ngizobuya. Tula 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 wesithando sami, tula 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 wemntanami, tula mntana khalelani mntanami, tula mntana khalelani mntanami, tula mntanami khalelani. Tula wena, tula wena, tula wena, tula mntana khalelani mntanami, tula 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 wena, tula 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 wena. Musukukhala ubaba uzobuya, musukukhala umama uzobuya. Did you record that?
Sholosa, ay Sholosa, Sholosa, ay Sholosa,
Online, on mobile, and soon on DAB. This is Starr Radio UK, the finest Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Come to shoot. Stimela samalahle. Yashosholo singole masondo sondo. Ibuye mSouth Africa. Igudla izindaba, igudla mawa. Iphetha bamhlophe nabamnyama. Iyapheka iyathulula. Uyathela wena osulapho. Lilizela mlilizeli. Lilizela ngane yaAfrika. Yashosholoza ingole masondo sondo. Yashosholoza ingole yaAfrika. Yashosholoza istimela samalahle. Shosholoza.
Hey, beautiful girl, sing. Hey, baby, hey. Hey, 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 beautiful girl. Hey, baby, hey, sing. Hey, baby, hey. Hey, 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 beautiful girl. Come along, to kiss me. Before I'm going, come along to kiss me. Before I'm going, don't you kiss me, nice. Before I'm going, don't you kiss me, nice. Before I'm going, come along, come along, come along. Yo, yo, yo. Don't you meditate, sing. Don't you meditate. I send a messenger to tell you that I want to meet you at a station. Come along to kiss me. Before I'm going, come along to kiss me. Before I'm going, don't you kiss me, nice, nice. Before I'm going, don't you kiss me, nice, nice. Before I'm going, come along, come along, come along. Yo, yo, yo. Hello, 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 my baby. Hello, my baby. Hello, hello, my baby. Hello, my baby.
Hey, darling, you asked me to come along. Here I am.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my chocolate. Hello, my baby. Hello, my baby.
Darling, before the night falls, after going home, Mom needs me, she's alone.
Hello, my sweet.
Hey, darling, here I come to kiss you. But before the night falls, I'll be gone. Mom's alone, but I do love you, baby.
Baby, 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 I love you, baby. Baby, 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 I love
Welcome.
I need you too, baby. I love you too. Baby, baby, baby. Baby, baby, baby. I love you too. Baby, 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 baby.
Hello, good evening, listeners. Without further wasting time check from our studios exactly 28 minutes per the hour of 8. Today's date 11th of October 2017. Someone said the year of our Lord. My name Frank Davids. Your usual host for the Big Questions program today. And tonight we are actually flying. Our jet is about touching down one of the most important countries when it comes to Africa. The president now is making waves across Africa, and some of us are delighted to have him as a president in Africa. Yes, we've had a few concerns about recent movements that he's done, especially the crackdown on the journalists, then a bit of policies that he's trying to put up that we disagree with. But tonight we're going to have an activist from Tanzania who is going to be with us very shortly. I also have in-house my do I call it my assistant and my the beautiful Lola actually with us. Lola, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here again.
Good. If you're actually following us on Facebook or watching us on YouTube or Smart View TV, please do us a big favor. Share the video with friends and family. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Africa is the home that we all love. The Caribbeans, Alicia, wherever you are, we are not neglecting Caribbeans. When we say Africa, it encompasses the Caribbeans as well. We are one people. We're moving and heading towards a common Africa, so to say. I wait to see a day where we can all come together and say, you know what? We call ourselves Africans, and probably all Jamaicans will move back to Africa. That'll be a lovely day, but I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how realistic is that?
At the age of 25, if I want to see it, probably 20, the next 100 years, it might not happen, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anyway, good evening once again. How are you doing, Lola?
Good evening, Frank. I'm good. How are you?
How was work?
It was good, thanks. How was your day?
No, my day has been good, although the weather has been some way.
Just compare this weather to last
Ghana
week.
Is it?
Just compare this weather to last week. It's
last
so
week.
Last week was the heat wave.
Yeah, it was a heat wave. But some of us don't like umbrellas. So when if you drive and park and you're looking at how do you get to your office and the heavens are coming. Listen, if you can see, probably you see some drops of water because we needed to run through the rain before we get to the studio, and we delayed probably because some makeup dropped off and we needed to
makeup. Yeah, Frank's makeup.
By the way, welcome again to Starr Radio UK, and we say big thank you to all of you who are locked on wherever you are. We say welcome again. This is a big questions program, comes your way every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. And we thank you for being a friend to Starr Radio. Like I introduced to you earlier on, we don't want to waste more time. We're going to cross over straight to our brother, and we're going to keep this interview very swift, sharp, and straight to the point. Very shortly, we're going to be seeing, in a few days, you're going to be seeing Laura being here alone, hosting the show.
Single-handedly.
So I'm just over here, trying to help. I don't know.
Ease the transition.
We'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Lamb and Mirabaks, who are actually supporting us when it comes to legal issues, difficult issues, fraud, criminal issues, immigration issues. Have you heard of lawyers who have 100% record when it comes to immigration issues?
100% record? No.
Man, everything they submit to Home Office will come successful.
No.
It's either they submit it and knowing that they're going to win, or they do not. They will advise you. They've got that record. Lamb and Mirabaks. Try them.
Clear record.
Yeah, I know you are from a legal background. That's what I'm telling you. We're going to be crossing over pretty shortly. But the country we're looking at is Tanzania. You've done a bit of research on Tanzania. Tell us, what do we know about Tanzania?
So Tanzania is most popular for its two top tourist attractions. It's
Okay.
got the Kilimanjaro mountain, the highest mountain in Africa.
Okay.
And it's also got very rich wildlife and safari parks, which is actually at risk of closing due to poaching. So a lot of poachers are going there and taking the animals and illegally trading. Other than that, the population in Tanzania is 47.6 million. It's one of the most peaceful countries in Africa. So domestically, there's a lot of stability in comparison to other African countries. The current president is John Magufuli. And he is nicknamed the bulldozer, so he's very direct. As soon as he came into office, he clamped down on ghost workers. So he removed over 300
Stop there. The ghost worker issue is something that interests me a lot because I come from Ghana. And there was a point in time where they were trying to fight ghosts, and it took them so long a time to be able to do. And even today, they still work talking about ghost workers. But in Tanzania, it wasn't less than 2 months. That was solved.
That's why he got the name Bulldozer. He literally bulldozed in, and he managed to get rid of over 300 ghost workers in such a short space of time.
Laura, we have our guests online, but unfortunately for our listeners, we're having a bit of a problem in terms of the picture because the lights over there are off. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let listeners have a view of. Let's listen to him and then we'll come back. Hello. Hello? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Wow. He should be able to hear us, but we cannot hear him.
Oh.
We cannot hear him. That's a bit of concern to us. Hello, can you hear us?
Is he on Skype?
Yes, he's on Skype all the way from Dar es Salaam. Yeah, right. We cannot hear you, which means that either your microphones are down or something like that is happening over there. Can you still hear us? Right, that's the line. We're going to try again. Let's try again. We have him all the way from Africa join us. He's an activist, and we're going to introduce him pretty shortly. We've had a problem with the line. Laura, you were talking to us about Tanzania. Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, so he removed over 300 ghost workers in such a short space of time. He's also clamped down on tax evasion.
Okay.
He has also ended the...
Let's try once again, Laura. Hold on for me. Can you hear us now? Hello. Wow. I think his line seems to be a problem today because we cannot hear him at all. We cannot hear him at all.
I thought I heard something in the background, like a phone vibrating.
Yeah, there's a kind of background noise, but we cannot hear him at all. Maso, can you hear us? Naso, can you hear us? We're rather getting a feedback from him, but we're not getting the line through. That's technology for you anyway. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Can you hear us, Naso? Right. We can't still. Our line is still having a bit of a problem. I know definitely it's not from our end. No, definitely not from our end. We in-house, we got everything sorted out. Yeah, we got everything sorted out in-house, so we shouldn't be having a problem with our line here. But yes, over here we've checked, everything is sorted out in-house, but I don't know why we can't not hear it. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Laura. You were giving us a bit of background about the country's Tanzania.
Yeah, so overall, the public opinion towards the president has been fairly positive because as soon as he came into office, he did actually fulfill most of the promises that he made. Education is now free. He cut down on tax evasion. He removed ghost workers. He came in with a strong agenda and he was sticking to it. However, more recently, some of the popularity is starting to wear off. So the youth unemployment is really at an all-time low in Tanzania, and added to that, there's also the cybercrime legislation.
Okay, let's try again. Just hold on for me. Naso, can you hear us now? Hello, Naso. Wow. We can't hear him. He should be able to hear us. Okay, Naso, this is what we're going to do. If you can hear us, just message us that you can hear us, because we know from here with everything with us is okay, and I think we're having a feedback, a very strong feedback from you, so your microphone might be having a problem. Unfortunately, we're having a bit of a problem from his end. Definitely not from our end. Let me try and see if we can get him. Lauren, let's continue. Continue. Whilst I try to see what we can do.
Okay, so currently there's about 1.5 million adolescents unemployed. So youth unemployment is really at an all-time high. And with the youth feeling disengaged, popularity of the president is starting to wane somewhat. Added to that as well, there's the more recent cybercrime legislation that came into force. So people who make any insults against the president are being arrested, they're being detained.
That's exactly what I was talking about what do you call it, the issue of freedom of the press, freedom of speech, which recently he's actually going hard on them, which some of us think that it's actually undermining the credibility that he built when he came in, because he came in, I mean, powerfully. We all supported him, but of late we're beginning to see some signs that don't seems to be encouraging, and they are an issue of concern to some of us. And I believe we're able to get our guests online. Laura, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go for a quick music break, and then when we come back, we should be able to get our guests online. Listeners, please, we apologize, especially for those of you who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube. We thank you for joining us, but we're going to try and do our best to bring our guests on this show tonight. We'll use other means if possible, and but we'll deliver as promised.
Sing. Homeless, homeless, moonlight sleeping on a midnight lake. Homeless, homeless, the moonlight sleeping on a midnight lake. And we are homeless, homeless, the moonlight sleeping on a midnight lake. And we are homeless, 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 the moonlight sleeping on a midnight lake.
This is Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio UK.
Many dead tonight could be you. Strong wind, many dead tonight could be you. And we are homeless, 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 in moonlight sleeping on the midnight lake. And we are homeless, 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 in moonlight sleeping on the midnight lake. Homeless, homeless, in moonlight sleeping on the midnight lake. Somebody sing, somebody sing, hello, hello, hello. Somebody sing, somebody cry, why. Somebody sing, hello, hello, hello. Somebody sing, somebody cry, why. Somebody sing. Hit your man up, hit your man up, yes I know alone. Hit your man up, hit your man up, yes I know my party in the house. Hit your man up, yes I know my party in the house. Hit your man up, yes I know my party in the house. Somebody sing. Somebody sing, hello, hello, hello. Somebody sing. Somebody cry, why? Somebody sing. Somebody sing, hello, hello, hello. Somebody sing. Somebody cry, why? Kulumani, kulumani siswe. Singanze jam, baya chabula basijanda. Sameli wa me baba, osa, 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 sameli tumtwalo wa, yiche. Nkosi yame iche uyasentu mthwalo wame iche nkosi yame iche nkosi sameli wame sameli wame Sameli wa me
Yes, listeners, welcome back. I think there's some magic working now. I think we've been able to pull something off. Let's see if we can hear Nasu. Nasu, good evening. Can you hear us? Okay, fine. Can you hear him?
No.
Can you hear him now? Nasu, can you hear us? Yeah, speak up. Can you hear us, Nasu? Okay, can you hear us? Wow, we seems to be having an issue with Nasu's line. So this is what we're going to do. Listeners, bear with us. We're going to find a way of talking to Nasu. We'll try this line for one more time using a different channel and see how it works. Hopefully, bear with us. We're trying to have Laura. Before we went, you were talking about, you were again highlighting about Tanzania. Yes. If you go ahead, the current developments.
Yes, so I was just touching on the point about the cybercrime legislation that recently was passed and essentially restricts people's human right to be able to express themselves.
Okay.
So we've seen plenty of high-figure people being arrested, rappers, politicians, being arrested for speaking out against the President Magufuli.
Okay.
And with that, there's at least a fine and up to 3 years in prison.
Okay.
For expressing any views which oppose the president.
All right. And that's the kind of problem most of us complain about, and I believe that's exactly one of the main reasons why we're doing this program today, to actually be able to find out exactly what is happening in Tanzania and why the turn of events, and I think it's giving rise to a lot of activists now who are actually campaigning against the president.
Yes.
Naso, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay, now I think we've tried something, and I think you heard
Yes,
him
I
right.
heard him crystal
All right,
clear.
finally, the line is working. Unfortunately, we can't bring you the video. We can't bring you the video output of the call, but we'll try and work with the audio version, which actually is the message we want to get across. For you, those of you on Facebook and YouTube and Smart TV, we say apologize, but you see the beautiful Lola over here, and who actually is going to help bring this program to you. Now, so good evening, and how is Tanzania?
Tanzania is good, but normal.
Okay.
And yes, it's good, but normal. We're still in a struggle because the history of Tanzania is the history of the caste struggle.
Okay, that's a very strong way to open to. I mean, a very strong comment. Anyway, tell us a little bit about who you are.
My name is Nasoro Gitunda. I came from Tanzania, from the Tanzanian Socialist Forum.
Okay.
I belong to research in the ideology committee in this organization.
Okay. And what do you do at the moment?
Yeah. Yes.
What do you do at present?
This I think the good question to me, but we need to understand the history first before to look at the present of Tanzania.
No, I'm not about
the history of Tanzania.
No, hold on. I'm asking about you as a person. What do you do now?
Oh, now I'm sociologist in Tanzania.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did my I do my work in this Tanzanian Socialist Forum.
Oh, okay. So basically, you are a full-time activist.
Yeah, but
Okay.
activist now.
Okay. So basically, as an activist, what do you do in when we talk of an activist in Tanzania? What exactly, if you wake up from Monday to Friday, what should people expect you to be engaged in, actively doing?
As an activist, but I believe in a Marxian point of view.
Okay.
So in my work and in my activism, I do in my all work to the community and the community members. I appreciate me concerned about we are together concerned about all sphere of the life, social, political, economic, and cultural. But my guideline or my ideal is a Marxian point of view.
Okay. When you talk of Muslim point of view, what do you mean? For those of us who might not have gone to those development and social theory and those theories, what exactly do you mean? Can you break it down for us in a practical bread and butter terms? What would that mean?
There are many theories in the world, and this is a history of the world. But in the theory of the Marxian, I think it is good, but due to contradiction that Marxian point of view is trying to analyze in the society, because human being before start everything, we start with material conditions. Human being needs goods, we need foods, need clothes, need shelter.
Okay.
And this is the major contradiction to the human being. That this Marxian point of view try to analyze through this material condition, human being, we must or should engage in environment by using the means of production to get this material needs. So there is a controversial between the Marxian point of view and other theories concerned about how to govern, how to control the all major means of production within the society.
Okay, so you do believe, so you believe that the resources within the society should be used for the people that occupy those spaces. Is that what you mean, if I understand the explanation you're giving?
Yeah, very important. Because let me to explain that in this is issue of the means of productions.
Okay.
The major means of production, like mining, like forestries, like oceans, like mining.
Okay.
This contradiction today in the capitalism is about who owns this means of production.
Okay.
In capitalism society, one person owns the means of all major means of production to the majority. So, in order majority to satisfy their own needs, we must this all major means of production to nationalize to the hand of the majority.
Okay.
This is the belief to that on particular angle.
Okay. Laura, you heard what he said. That is his background, and that's why he believes in more like which fits into the idea of socialism, proper social. Although we know socialism is dying, but we still have some people who still believe in it. I'm not going to disclose where I stand, but probably we'll get. Anyway, that's a good introduction. Now, you said because of our line, we're going to be very fast. I mean, we know the line is not that good, and we don't want to get a problem with the line. We're going to be a bit fast with over this. Tell us a little bit. In your introduction, you said Tanzania continues with the struggle. Most of us will tell you that Tanzania is basically a shining example to the rest of Africa. When the current president came in, there are a lot of good things that he did. And we look up to, and a lot of us look up to Tanzania. We want to learn from Tanzania, but you're painting a picture of Tanzania that a lot of us listening and viewing this program will wonder, what is it talking about? Is it from a different planet? Is it coming from Pluto? Is it the same Tanzania that we've heard about, seen on TV? And we know the president is doing a good job. Can you tell us a little bit about the background of Tanzania, where we are today, or what has brought us this far, and why some of you are taking on the president going forward? Tell us a little bit about Tanzania.
Very important question you try to ask me, and many people wonder about the Tanzanians. But in order to understand well Tanzanians, we need to understand the history of Tanzania.
Okay.
Since independence, Tanzanians in 1961, Tanzania has gotten independence from the ex-British colonies, the one of the ex-British colony in 1961. But during the struggle for the independence, the first president, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, he was one among of the president, or one among the men who tried to engage during the struggle of the independence from the British colonies. And this is the history of Africa, because most of the part of the Africa was colonized. So after the independence, we have inherited the problem of colonialism, because you know that in the Berlin Conference in 1884 and 1885, this conference was the tragedy of the Africa, because this conference we make the balkanization of the Africa, and so after the colonizations, the Africa inherent this the problems of the colonialism. So Tanzanians after independence, we have a lot of the problem. we had a lot of the problems concern about health, concern about the electricity, safe and clean water, about even the educations. It provided by the during the particular time. Education it provided was provided according to the tribal and according to the status of the position within the particular society. So Mwalimu Nyerere, his came up after by called the Arusha Declaration.
Yeah.
And that particular time, Tanzanians was declared that this is the state of the socialism, the self-reliance.
Okay.
And in that particular time, from the 1967 up to 1980s, Tanzania, we had a lot of development, concern about healthy, concern about educations, because the under socialism in 1967, all social service is not was not a commodity. So all the people within Tanzanians within the particular time was getting this social service free without buying and selling this social service. And even in industries, we had many industries in Tanzania. A good example, we had textile industries. In Tanzania, we had the ability to use 80% of the cotton, of the raw material of the cotton, used for the local industry during the particular time. And I remember under the socialism in 1967, Tanzanians in education, he was one among of the countries that the people who was leading to reading and writing, and Tanzania was received the certificate from the UNESCO due to the higher education concern about the particular time of the Arusha Declaration. But after Arusha Declaration in 1980s, and this is the tragedy of the Africa, because after the obey and the follow the structural adjustment program, neoliberal policies, and these policies turn all social service into commodities, not only Tanzania but in Africa in general, and this is created the increasing the poverty, because Africa and Tanzania, after obey this structural adjustment program, we see that the increasing of the poverty, the increasing of the deaths of child and the mother during the birth, until now, due to this neoliberal policy, turning the social service into commodities. So from the 1980s up to now, I can say up to now, there are a lot of the contradiction in Tanzania concerning about the people towards to get this material needs, this social service that is very important for human being. So after this obeying this neoliberal policies, a lot of the problem they came up in Tanzania. Even in democracy, Tanzania today we have Magufuli is one of the fifth president of Tanzania after Mwalimu Nyerere, and come up with the Mwinyi, and come up with Benjamin Mkapa, Jakaya Kikwete, and now President Magufuli. But you can see now this changing of the democracy, of the multi-party democracy in these neoliberal policies, it had nothing. He's nothing to the world development of the people of the Tanzania. So even this neoliberal policy not affect the economy of Tanzania, but also affect the politics, because now Tanzanians politics is the politics of the populism, and left out the politics of the policy of liberation that Mwalimu and under the socialism in 1967 we had this politics of the liberation. But you can see now during the multi-party democracy, and this I call this the politics of the socialism or of the populism, because this politics of today in Tanzania, it is governed by money. Money it decide who can get election or can get to be voted or voted in Tanzania. So for the current situation that we see in Tanzania today, it's not something new, because we are we are we have we are in tragedy of neoliberal policy.
Okay.
Whatever the
Okay.
president, the
Marshall.
current president
Marshall.
now
Marshall.
doing in Tanzania,
Okay.
even if we cannot change the
Nasu, just give
yes,
me a
yes.
minute. Because of our time, I need to just understand a few things. You've laid a good foundation for where you stand and what you're fighting for, which happens to be the case across most African countries. Um, those who fought, our grandfathers, forefathers, the torchbearers who actually fought for the liberation of the African continent, were in one way or the other linked toward the communist and the socialism ideologies, and that led to those kind of policies that they pursued during those times. The Arusha Declaration, where we had Nyerere going for villageization, where agriculture was supposed to be key in actually transforming the economy of Tanzania. We know most African countries have shifted from that. Now, what I want to understand from you, are you calling for a return of African continent towards a path of communism and socialism, or you actually looking at the current president as someone who is actually creating more of a problem? What is the struggle now? Is it a struggle that has been going on and you calling for the return to the path of socialism, or you thinking that what the current president is doing is actually not serving the interests of the people?
The socialism has a principle, and now in Tanzania, I don't see any sign of the socialism, because the current government it is extending the neoliberal policies, and this and even Mwalimu he was predicting that in the future there were some people speaking about the socialism, and the feeling of the socialism is higher in Tanzania, but the government, but the present government, I don't see any this kind of the socialism that retained back to that was left in 1967, because even there are we had a debate concern about the mineral concentrate, and that the president he tried to formulate the committee that tried to overhaul the what is going on in the mining industry in Tanzania in last month, but we can wonder why the president he failed to use or to nationalize this all major means of production.
But when
like
he was
mining.
campaigning, when he was campaigning, he didn't campaign on those ideologies. He campaigned, laid his principles, his manifesto before people, and he was voted for. So don't you think that he has to pursue what he promised the people instead of trying to go back to history, what Nyerere did? I mean, Nyerere had his turn. Every leader must come with a new focus, because look at it this way: capitalism, socialism. We'll be moving from the theories and go to the practical. I mean, pretty soon, because my sister is going to be asking you a few questions about what is happening currently. Don't you think that because those of you who believe in pure socialism have actually not lived up to expectation? That's why capitalism is taking over, playing to the human greed that a lot of, because you voted for him anyway, and democracy. If I present a policy and the majority voted for me, then I'm bound to actually push those policies, because that's why the majority voted for.
Let me to explain, because this is not the theory. This is the reality. This is the reality. When we talk about the human history, you talk about the how how to manage, how to govern the means of the production. This is very important for human history.
But that is theory.
The
That is theory. But when it comes to practical,
of a human being. Yes.
Go ahead. That is theory. You're talking theory now. We look at it practical because one, we know population has increased.
So, let me let me explain that.
Okay.
Because the issue is here. The issue is here, not in Tanzania at all, but in Africa. The issue is here is how to manage our economy.
Okay.
Even the debate between the Mwalimu Nyerere and the Kwame Nkrumah in 1960s. This debate was about how to manage the economy of the Africa through the socialist pan-Africanism. But this is a debate also, it gives us the election to the present today. What we see in Tanzania today, there are a lot of the contradiction between the use values and the exchange values.
Okay.
You know that there is the issue of the land, concern about land. Land is very important for the human beings. So in our system today of the neoliberal policies and the capitalism, change land from the use value to exchange values. So for those who have money, they get land in Tanzania, and for those who have not money, they fail to get land for the cultivation. It's not Tanzania, and look at South Africa. 80% of the people of the South African has lost land, and even Tanzania today. So the issues here is who owns the means of production. And I try to see the president of Tanzania today to nationalize all major means of production, because this is the problem. This is a very, very big problem in Tanzania and Africa in general. Who owns this means of production? Who owns the minerals? Who owns the land? Who owns the oceans? Who owns the transportation system? So we need to look in that particular angle. And even the issue of democracy. For me, democracy is not something to change the regime change for me. For me, democracy is how human beings satisfy the material conditions, and which is the system that allow the human being to satisfy the material condition. It's obviously socialism, because socialism turn all major means of production into the hand of the majority, and all the social relation and the system of the production and the production of the given of the majority of the given society, all the surplus value are produced within the production will be shared equally to the member of the majority.
Okay.
But we see now in Tanzania, look at the industries. There are many people where they are working in the industries, but it produces surplus values only for the one, or for the individual who own this. The industries, or own this is the land, or own this the minerals in such a way.
Okay.
So the majorities in that particular system, they get worse in that particular issue.
Okay, and I think I agree with you to a large extent on those things, because I think it's the same problem across all parts of Africa, where I mean, personally, I think the means of production and the means of those who control wealth now is in the hands of the few. Let me borrow from Jeremy Corbyn, who says what the many, where we need now to fashion policies where those policies should be able to serve the interests of the many instead of the few. But someone will say Tanzania is not the poorest country in Africa. If you look at their GDP compared to what they call it, the sub-region, we have Kenya, which is taking the lead in 2015, for instance. Kenya had a GDP of almost 1,400. Tanzania was about 1,100. If you compare that to Uganda, which was below $700, Ethiopia was also below $620. So it's not doing bad. As of last year, you look at the composition of GDP. Nyerere that he spoke about was actually championing agriculture, and those of you who are listening to us and are interested in social policy and development policy, there's a book I can recommend to you which was written by Shoemaker. And Shoemaker actually understudied Nyerere, who was the first president, and I call him the founder of Tanzania actually. And the title of the book is Small is Beautiful. That's the title of the book, Small is Beautiful. If you are interested, you can Google that book, get it and read it. It talks about socialism, it talks about how the community should own the resources that generates wealth for those community. It's a brilliant book that was written by Shoemaker. Now, let's move from that. You wanted to ask a few questions. Were you coming? Okay, let's hear you.
Okay. Hi, Naso.
Yeah, he can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi.
So, I think my first question was, do you feel that Magufuli, the president, is doing a
Hello?
good... Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, he can hear you now.
Okay.
If you can be concerned, yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to get your opinion on the president. Do you believe that he's done a good job since he's come into office? Do you agree with his somewhat authoritarian leadership style? Or do you feel that some of his policies have been too strict, particularly in terms of the cybercrime legislation?
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear her? I mean, he's asking, do you think that the president, since assuming office...
No, not proper. Maybe assist me what she says.
Okay, now, she's asking, do you think, what will be your personal assessment of the performance of the current president?
Oh. Very, very important and crucial questions. And these are questions many people wonder to this fifth the government session now, and this government is is under President Magufuli. For me, there are something good to this government, because Tanzania we pass in a very difficult way, and after this tragedy of the neoliberals from 1980s up to now, we changed the five presidents, and this five president is apart to Mwalimu, because Mwalimu, he had a very good work in Tanzanians. From the after Mwalimu, there are the three presidents they pass. So apart these three, Magufuli and President Magufuli now, he tried to speak the language of the majority, and he tried to use the symbol and the sign that the majority use in the particular society.
Okay.
So for me, it is there are some sort of good for this president, but it's not enough. But it's not panacea for president to speak the majority of the language of majority. The issue here is how to bring or to break the iron curtain of the capitalism of the bourgeoisie now in Tanzania. This is very important, but it is not enough for me that the new government did, but it is some of good. You can see the some of the issues that he tried to collect in Tanzania, but this is not a panacea. It's not a passe to bring the development of Tanzania.
Okay.
The issue here is how to break this iron curtain of the economic disarticulation.
Okay, talking about the breaking of the cartel, let me just go back to
Yes.
last year. The composition of your GDP last year, and I'm going to ask a specific question.
Hello?
Looking at who controls. Can you hear me? I want to find out from your experience those who control the economy of Tanzania. Your GDP last year, the composition of your GDP last year is as follows. Agriculture contributed 29% towards your GDP. Construction contributed 12% towards your GDP. Now we have wholesale and retail, that is service industry, contributed 10% towards your GDP. We talk of public administration, which I can lump all again as part of the what do you call it, services. And then you also look at manufacturing contributed only 6% of your GDP. The other factor, which is mining and other things, came in as 36%. Now, give us an idea of or paint a picture of Tanzania. When we talk of the 29% agriculture, who are the major players in that industry in Tanzania?
We have a problem. We have a problem of the economic disarticulation, and not in Tanzania, in Africa. We have tragedy of economic disarticulation. We see the higher gross domestic product, but the wealth, the well-being of the particular people, the well-being of the people within the particular society is going worse because there is no connection between the sector of the production and the sector of the consumption.
Okay.
This is very important. And even we have a budget. Every year we conduct of the budget in Tanzania, but this budget it failed to reach the goals because we have a tragedy of the national debt, and now we have a debt of the 50.8 trillion in Tanzania. So we see that there are a lot of the problem within. This is the structural disarticulation of the economy. So our economy is not good. Our economy is not good because we have lost the power to control our economy.
Okay,
because
so
our
on that,
from the
okay,
Western countries.
Nasu, on that, I want to be specific on this issue because we're looking at what is leading to poverty, what is leading to problems. We're looking at what is leading to unemployment. And according to your GDP, we got about 1/3, which is about 29% of that being agriculture. And what I want to find out, we know the issue of Zimbabwe, we know the issue that happened in Kenya, we know Uganda, we know South Africa, we know the issue of the Southern and the Eastern Africa. The land distribution issue became, it's a bit of a problem to talk about. And if you look at Arusha Declaration that you spoke about, land distribution was a key factor in that declaration. What I'm trying to find out from you is who are those controlling the 29% of the economy, which is agriculture today? Are they foreigners? Are they the locals? What form of agriculture are we practicing in Tanzania as we speak presently that contributes to that 29% of your GDP?
In contribution to GDP, there are agricultural sector. It is contributed to about the 29%.
Okay.
In the GDP of Tanzania.
Wow.
Okay. And even the sector of yes.
No, go ahead. We're listening.
Yeah. This the mining sectors. Also, we have transportation sector. Also, this producer contribute a lot to the GDP of the Tanzania. So but it's not enough for this important and very crucial sector to provide this national domestic product for Tanzanians, because there is a problem for these sectors, because Tanzanians people, 75% of the Tanzanian people, they belong to agricultural sector.
Okay.
But you can see that this agricultural sector, the contribution of this agricultural sector to GDP is under the 25%. So this is the problem. But also we see the sector that provided the higher contribute higher percent to the national GDP, the sector of minerals, the sector of transportation, the sector of the infrastructures. When we see the issue of employment to this sector, is not about 100,000 people that are employed to this very important sector that provide or contributing a lot of the percent of the national product. Also, this is the problem. So the problem here is how to govern the system of economy, because there are economic disarticulation. The system of production and the system of the consumption are not connected within Tanzanians. And we see that we have a lot of the minerals, we have a lot of the resource, but the development is not yet.
Okay, now let me then ask you on that. Let me pick on the minerals. I just want to ask to get be educated about how the mineral sector is composed. If you look at Nigeria, we take oil, it's controlled by foreigners. We have Nigerians playing part in it, but only 5% of them are playing part in it. If you go to Ghana, the mineral industry is, apart from the Galamsey issue, which the locals have taken and they are destroying the environment, and the government is not trying to stop. If you look at the big mining companies, also controlled by foreigners. Anglo Gold is playing a very, huge part in that. And across Africa, you go to Uganda, you go to Rwanda, you go to Congo, one of the richest countries on earth. But again, when you look at among all the countries that are poor, Congo comes as 183 of the poorest countries on earth. Okay, but they have one of the richest, minerals per square mile across the earth. So who controls the mineral industry in Tanzania?
The same. We are in the same bus, comrades. We are in the same bus, my friends. Africa has the same history. African country has the same history. And what we see in Congo, what we see in South Africa, and what we see in Angola, it's the same in Tanzania. There are some the foreign people. There are some of the investors who control the resource of our countries, and this is very important. The very important question we need to ask, and we need to try to remember the debate between the Kwame Nkrumah and the Mwalimu Nyerere in 1960s concern about what are the good direction toward the African development. And one of the best solutions Mwalimu and the Kwame Nkrumah did is about the Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism as the iron curtain to fight against the neoliberalism, capitalism, and imperialism. So what we see now in Africa, there are a lot of imperialism, and we see there are people who call the investors. We came in Africa and taking the resource.
How do we reverse the situation?
And
how can we
surplus values that we produce in minerals?
Okay,
and taken away and repatriated these minerals to Western countries. Okay.
So we seem to have a uniform problem. How do we reverse the situation? How can we reverse the situation?
Hello?
Yes. How can we reverse the situation? Wow, I think we're having a
Hello?
Yes, can you hear us? I think your president is online.
Yes.
Okay, now how can we reverse the situation?
How?
How can we reverse such a paradigm?
We need the organization and the mobilization, my friends. We need the mobilization and the organization, because the feeling of the unity in Africa is higher. And we see that the colonialism and the neo-colonialism, neoliberalism still continue in Africa. So the important question, the important task we have now, we need to organize, we need to mobilize, and to revive the spirit of the Pan-Africanism as the weapons to Africans toward the imperialism and the capitalism in the world today. Because at the future in Africa, we see the great contradiction. We get contradiction because today there are problem of people getting housing conditions. People they fail to get housing because they lose money in Africa. Also, we have a tragedy of the dollarization in Africa. So this is the problem. Is not solved by the individuals. It's solved by the collective, and we need collective. We need to mobilize. We need to organize. We need to revolutionize in Africa, and that is why Mwalimu and Kwame Nkrumah that is was did in 1960s concerned about what is the direction for the African development, concerned about this all enemies of the imperialism and capitalism.
All right. You get what he's saying, because the issue of Africa is about redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
But I am looking at, and I have called for a situation where I have a theory that I argued, a position I argued from. I look at, we're not going back to the pure socialism that we started with, but to look at how we can reap the benefit of socialism and the benefits of capitalism. And I'll bring my point to a practical point now. I am calling for something. I've argued or I've written a lot of papers about it on what I call social capitalism. And my point is simple. Like you say, the mining sector, for instance, if you look at all the production, the GDP that we spoke about and we are talking about today, the countries will declare that, oh, we have GDP of 40 billion. As in 2000, as at 2015, the GDP of Tanzania was 44.9 billion US dollars. Now, the question we've not asked when governments and statisticians are giving us this figure is, what percentage of that GDP remains in our country? Because the GDP is a gross domestic product. The mining sectors, without disassociating the part of the economy that is controlled by the foreigners, the type of the economy that is controlled by the 3% of the elites and the politicians, from that economy that is controlled by the locals who form the majority. Tanzania, we're talking about 70% of the population involved in agriculture, and across Africa it ranges from around 50 to 80% of the people involved in agriculture. And we increasingly look at agriculture contributing less and less towards our GDP, where the service industry, the telecoms, the mining sectors have taken it. But when you look at those industries, we do not have our people holding or having shares in those industries. No. For instance, what prevents us from saying that teachers, nurses, farmers, one mining company, or probably we're setting up a mining company and we want them to buy shares in those companies, so that when the profit, when those mining companies are making profit, we can redistribute that wealth to the shareholders. What prevents us from doing that? Because that is the only way. Those are the only ways we're going to distribute wealth. If not, like he's saying, we're going to have a problem. We're talking about GDP, and nothing coming out of it, because the GDP does not make sense. I want to understand what happens to the cocoa. I don't know how do we call the most basic food in Tanzania? How do we call it? Naso, are you there?
Yeah.
What will be the most basic food, the common food that if I get to Tanzania, the remotest area, I can buy today?
the demonstration or what?
Now I'm talking of food. Food.
The bread of Tanzania.
The bread of
Oh, okay.
Tanzania.
Food.
Yeah. The staple food.
Ugali.
Okay, so I mean, when they are talking about the GDP and other things, it doesn't concern someone who is selling ugali. The person is not thinking about fried rice and other stuff. We're talking about the basic necessities of life. The basic.
Yes,
And
yes.
all across Africa, we have actually outsourced, sold out the most productive ventures of our economy to the foreigners or to a few people where I mean, whatever they do, they get rich and we get poorer.
Yep.
It's ironic. So
I think the reliance on foreign investment is just too high.
I think
across the board.
you are right concerned about this GDP. Because the GDP today is a very busy word, and concerned about the IMF and the World Bank. Every time, anytime, every day, every month, every year, they speak about the GDP, and they say that the African countries, even Tanzania, our GDP is growing up, but it is inversely proportional between the increasing of GDP and the well-being to the society. It's concerned because the human being, before start everything, we start with material conditions. We need foods, we need clothes, we need shelter. But why this GDP increase and the human being fail to get their material needs? The point here is about how to govern our economy.
okay.
And we see when we show that the social capitalism system of economy, or the social democrat like Jeremy Corbyn, also this other system that people, they try to govern and to control our economy, their economy, but it's not enough because this system, they fail to distribute or to democratize this means of production to all majority, because the socialism is not enough to reach in the nationalization of major means of production. It's go further. It's go further up to how to manage the social well-being within the particular society, because the nationalization is one thing, and how to manage nationalization is another thing. So we have something to discuss. We have this problem in Africa, and we need to find the alternative, because the system we have now, they failed to bring us as an alternative to our development. So we need we have a task to discuss, to debate, and to ideology, to organize, to concern about what is the best alternative to our development, because our economies, as I say before, our economy is economically disarticulated. Our economy, it failed to govern. It's governed by the business from our side, outside of the Africa. So this is a very big problem, and we need organization to our countries. The issue of democracy, the issue of the good governance, that it is language, but not transform our society. Our laws, our policies also is nothing to transform our society. The important issue is how to change the system of production and the consumption within the particular society. Not law, not policy, not principle within any particular side. And we see today in the world, we suffer the problem of the climate change. So the issue is not climate change. The issue is the system change within the particular society. Even now we try to get this new
Right.
and to say that
okay. Okay, just hold on for me. Listeners, you're tuning to Star Radio. This is the Big Questions program, comes your way every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We have with us our brother Nasu Kitumda, all the way from Tanzania. And what we're looking at is we're trying to go and understand how Tanzania is structured economically, the issue about the well-being of our people, and how wealth is distributed in that part of the world. We are embarking on a journey across Africa on this program to be able to go into each country and understand. And from our understanding from Congo, Ghana, Uganda, Cape Verde, our problems looks and are similar. It's like a straight jacket that we are all wearing across Africa. I mean, you go to Nigeria, it's the same problem. Ghana, South Africa, the same problem. So the question, the big question is, what are we going to do as a people to be able to change things around? Because if you take the oldest country in Africa in terms of independence, apart from one country that was not fully colonized, Liberia. If you look at Ghana, it's 60 years old. If Ghana were a human being, they would have had grandchildren by now. They would have children. Are you getting me?
Yep.
They would have been growing gray hair. So if we use that as a basis, Tanzania got independence in the 70s. But again, if you push it back, we're getting to 40
Yes.
50 years. Are you getting me? If it's a human being, but we still continue to see the same and even worse conditions. And the irony of it is that we have people telling us our GDP, our economic indicators are showing fine. Yes, life expectancy has improved. A bit of malnutrition and other things have improved. Infant mortality and other things have improved. But increasingly, abject poverty, intergenerational poverty, absolute poverty, and relative poverty are on the rise.
Yes.
Okay, so the question we need to ask is, why is it that we claim our economies are growing, but the number of people who are increasingly living in poverty, suffering, find it difficult to actually make ends meet or have 3 square meals a day is also increasing? Are you getting me?
Yep.
We now have a situation where now school fees, a lot of countries, well, we still have a few who are now declaring free SHS and free school and other things, but increasingly at the tertiary level, most countries are now paying, where those who are implementing those policies today never paid for that. So on one hand, our economies are growing with figures. On the other hand, poverty level and the suffering level of our people, youth unemployment is growing. So as Africans, what are we going to do? That is the big question. What are we going to do? How do we shift? We need a shift. What are we going to do? He is talking about mobilization. How are we going to mobilize across Africa? Lola,
I think as a starting point, we need to stop
if
using...
you come forward and speak up a bit so that he can hear you more. Yeah.
As a starting point, we need to stop using these fake figures. So we need to be completely honest and show exactly what the GDP is, because the GDP figures that we're seeing are not being translated when you look at the general well-being and the quality of life of people within Africa. So GDP is saying one thing, but the reality of the situation is most people are living in world poverty conditions. So as a starting point, we need to admit that there is a problem, and then we need to tackle it. And there has to be that want to tackle it from the politicians in leadership, because right now, even though world poverty across Tanzania, for instance, is at a high, for the politicians, it's not really a concern, because they have their interests supported by the system. They have their money, they have their good quality of life, so they need to want to change the system for the many. It has to now be a case of the majority has been considered, not the few. So I think that's the problem.
But that is the problem, because that is where the problem starts. Because those who take those decisions, the moment you change the system, it does not serve their interest. Okay? You change the system, it does not serve their interest. Because one, changing the system means that they're going to lose the stronghold they want to have over those business. Don't forget, when they are signing these contracts, I mean, they all get their kickbacks and other things, right? So you're changing the system to what will not benefit them, and they constitutionally are being empowered to actually take decision through democracy on your behalf. What are we going to do? I mean, from my personal point of view, I think we need a revolution.
I mean,
I
politicians.
think we need social revolution across Africa, and I call it borderless revolution. The problem of Tanzania is a problem of Congo.
Yes.
The problem that is happening in Nigeria is a problem that a Ghanaian should look at as their own. So that we need to kickstart a social revolution led by the youth. I do not believe again that we should have leaders that are nurtured.
But my only concern about social revolution is when I hear that, I'm thinking violence, I'm thinking riots, I'm thinking civil wars, which won't necessarily solve the problem. We don't want some bloodshed.
It's about mobilization to the social, the youth, to actually champion the cause that we need.
I mean, it's definitely going to come from the youth, and because the youth are the generation that have been let down. So, for instance, in Tanzania, 1.5 million, youth are unemployed and not in education. So the push will come from that group, but I wouldn't want that group to think in terms of having a revolution it has to be violent or it has to be forceful, because I do think a social revolution needs to happen, but just the style of the revolution.
How do we do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
now,
good.
so you spoke about mobilization. What is your idea of mobilization? What kind of system will you call for? And how will you want us to mobilize to be able to shock the system for a change? And when we move from that, I want to also find out from you what your organization is doing. We understand now that your president is actually, they've just passed a law, and we have people that have been under arrest as we speak because they've spoken against the government. Freedom of speech is not valid, which means that potentially people like yourself are at risk. So I want to find out, you spoke about mobilization. What sort of mobilization will you call for, will you support?
Mobilization in the organization, we need to go down to the grassroots organization. In our countries and in our society, we have a grassroots organization. It's an organization of farmers, organization of workers in industries, organization of vendors and the graduates, because a lot of graduates who are finishing in school and in high learning that fail to get work in our country because our economy is poor. So we needed to make it to organize people from below, from the grassroots organization. From the people, we need to organize of the women within our societies, because there is no revolution without the women empowerment. So this is which is very important areas and crucial. We needed to mobilize and to organize people in our society.
Okay, that is fine.
And not only to organize, but also to learn from them, because these are a group of people from below. Every day they struggle. Every day they fight in our society. Every day they struggle, because we see the struggle of the land contradiction, the struggle of farmers, the struggle of the working class in industries, the struggle of the student who graduate in high learning school, the struggle of the women concerned about the issue of the patriarchal and the matriarchal system. So we see this the organization also, we need to learn from them, because they know their struggle, they know their fight, they know their struggle. Very important.
Okay, all right. Now let me come straight to the current issue about what is happening. Can you just give us a bit of highlight, Laura, about the law that was passed? The law that was passed, what is happening, how people are being arrested. Can you just give us a big highlight about it?
Of course. So cybercrime legislation was passed by Magufuli, and essentially anyone who insults or says anything derogatory and in opposition to his leadership can be arrested detained for up to 3 years, and fined for a maximum of 3,000 Tanzanian shillings, I believe. So some high-profile figures have been arrested and detained, including rappers, politicians, and it just really is concerning that in this day and age, people are being arrested and being fined for simply expressing their opinions.
Okay, Lord, now so tell us a little bit more about what exactly is happening to the law that has been passed and how people are being arbitrarily, detained.
You know that every epoch there are some sort of there are some sort of the problems, there are some sort of the struggle. Every epoch in society, there are a lot of the contradiction and controversial concern about this the freedom of the mass media, the mainstream media in Tanzania, the freedom of the people speaking in social media is concerned about to provide the opinions and the consultation to the government concerned about there's some issues that are emerging in societies. And
This is Starr Radio
something
UK.
new. Each approach, there is a lot of the contradiction and a lot of the tendy, a lot of people struggle concerned about the freedom of the expression, the freedom of the opinion within a particular side. So there is a problem here is on people providing this particular opinion. And in 2015, the government they passed the law, the Cybercrime Act, that is the special for control and protect this public opinions and the public freedoms, public consultation to particular side. Because but it is debated, it is debated, and it is debated because this even law there are some things it is very contradictory, because if you say that there is a false information, who decided this is a false information or not a false information, and who say this is a false and not say this is wrong? So in philosophy there is something false for you, it's good for others. Something's good for you, it's bad for others. So there is a lot of contradiction, but it's not something new. So we need also to speak. We need to speak. We need to as I say before, to organize and to mobilize, because each epoch in a society, each history in a society is a history of the class struggle in each society. So very important to organize and to mobilize and to extend the solidarities concerned about such phenomena. Look in Zambia today, you see, there are a lot of this contradiction, and the president in Zambia called the state for emergency. Also, we see that the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, the freedom of is very, very, very crucial things and important. We need to debate and we need to raise our voice concerned about this particular issue. Also, we have the Statistic Act that also they passed their way. They signed away to the Cybercrime Act. Also, this it's purposely for control and protect the research and the documenting within Tanzanian society. So also there is a contradiction here. So, but the important is how to fight together, and to extend the solidarity. Also, we have debating in a few days ago. There is the issue of the pregnancy, the issue of the word of the government that the pregnant girls are not allowed to, after delivery, are not allowed to back to school.
That is a very important one. Yeah.
Yeah, there are lots of debating among the activists and the civil society organizations, and even the past the government it allowed these situations for pregnant girls to get after delivery to back to the school. But the word of the statement of the government now, the pregnant girl, he or she prohibited to back to school after delivered. For men, it's get the 30 years in prisons, and the girl and the lady one it is back to home to bring a child. So this is a very debate issues even now in Tanzania. So we can see as a socialist, Tanzanian socialist forums, this is for us is not good things, because there are two class in Tanzania. There are class of the poor and the class of the rich. For the rich, it's something easy for our children to get back in school, even in private school. But in poor societies, in this neoliberal that education is a commodity. You need money to buy the education. For them, it is very difficult for this statement, and we need to try to raise the voice concern about to debate in this particular.
Naso, let me pause you over there and go to a few comments. We have Francine, who has just sent a comment. We say our leaders need to take a stand and stop foreign controlling our minds, land, etc. Also, our leaders need to put their interest of their people, the interest of their people first, not the interest of the former colonial masters. We need to unite all Africans and stop betraying one another. Another comment coming: we need to put Pan-Africanism education from primary school. We need to change our education system, because the system we have in place destroy us on the early age. We need to promote our history from early age. I quite agree with what he's saying. I would like to say a big thank you to all of you who are actually following us. We did start a program on time, but yes, on Facebook got quite a good number following us and listening to this program, over 3,000 of you. And I say big thank you to Cliff Marach or Quakey. I say big thank you to you. I can't mention all of you, but keep your comments coming. If you like to contribute to this program, I think we'll be ending in a few minutes, so we will not take phone calls. But let me, before we come to the future, and in 5 minutes to tell us about the future of Tanzania from your point of view. This law, Laura, is something that when I first heard of it, I was frightened. Basically, a lot of girls get pregnant not because they want to get pregnant. You cannot control 100% the sexual activities between boys and girls who are actually from 16, 17 going. This law basically says that if you are a girl and you get pregnant, you are barred from getting education. If you are a boy who impregnates a lady, you are destined to prison. What you're looking at is one, the majority of the youth who in one way or the other might find themselves, listen, we can present a religious argument that, what do you call it, marriage before sex. And I mean,
no sex before marriage.
Please, that is.
But if we're going to be completely realistic, we know that
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So what we're doing eventually is saying that, okay, if you're pregnant, do not tell anybody, go for dangerous abortion. It's a license for death. So a lot of girls, instead of telling their parents that they are pregnant or saying to, we're going to have a lot of pregnancies being terminated.
Back-end abortions.
Back-end abortions, which will lead to what you call it, a lot of deaths.
Or on the flip side, we'll have plenty of young boys going to prison, plenty of young girls now no longer having access to education.
The future of that country is being destroyed by this. To be honest with you,
but this is what makes me think that this unpopularity amongst the youth, because I'm sure, you know, aside from the fact that there's issues with education, unemployment. Passing this law as well, it's just making the president extremely unpopular with the youth and young voters. So it's unlikely that perhaps he'll get voted in again.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, I when I heard about it, we discussed it on the morning show with Fachi, and I've been thinking about the wisdom, the reason, the benefit of this law.
The rationale behind
the
it is
rationale behind, and if this law passed through the cabinet, I want someone to convince me, and probably one of these we will try to speak to the Tanzania ambassador to the United Kingdom to find out exactly why such a law. I did a thesis on dropout rates among schoolgirls, and well, that's for another day. I'll be able to tell a story as to why I think one of this law is just one of the bad laws that the bad law of the decade. I'll call it.
the
Now,
worst law.
yeah. Now, so can you tell what hope should people have in Tanzania from your point of view? What is the future of Tanzania?
The future of Tanzania is belong to the Africa. Because I said before that Africa, we are the same. And you remember the conference of Berlin 1884 and 1885. This conference was among of the bring the tragedy in Africa by creating the balkanization of Africa. Africa is the one. So the future of Tanzania is belong to the future of the Africa, and this is very important because we cannot explain the nationalism without explaining the Pan-Africanism. This is very, very big mistake to separate these two things, nationalism and the Pan-Africanism. So the future of Tanzanians very important. First of all, we need development of the people and not development of the things, because there are two differences between the people development and the things development. So we need, in order to get the people-centered development, we need to make sure that the major means of production should be to the hand of the majority. So we need to change the system of the economy that we have. That today we have the circulated economy, the economy that we produce what we not consume, and we consume what we not produce. This is very important for our future for Tanzanians. And even today there are some of writers that are writing in Tanzanians concerned about new government, but this is not enough. We needed to extend this efforts and to fight this war in very critical manner, because this is a war of the class struggle between the have and the have not. So very important. We cannot allow the things development that is nothing to the individual, but because we see in many parts of Africa we have things development. We have roads, we have infrastructure, good infrastructure, we have airport, good airport, we have industries, but the people development it is low. So we need to promote the people-centered development. That is Malim in 1967. It was the basis or the basic principle of socialism, people-centered development. In order to get people-centered development, we cannot turn the social service into commodity. We cannot make health as a commodity. We cannot make education as a commodity. So this is very important for the future of the Tanzanian and the African world. So I believe in Kwame Nkrumah and that is the way it says that the independence of Ghana was nothing if the other rest of the Africa was not getting the independence. And even I say now that the development of the future of Tanzania is nothing without the good future of the Africa. So
Wow, don't tell me we've lost him.
I believe in this particular.
Okay, all right. Nasu, thank you very much for joining us. Can you just share your last words and we say goodbye to you. And if you have any one you want to say hello to, you might do that now.
I cannot hear.
All right. What I'm saying is, we would like to take your last words, and if you have anyone we want to say hello to, please do it, and then we'll bring the program to a close.
Oh, so I try to add the something.
Yeah.
In this particular issues, because there is one of the professor, I think in America, David Aves, in his book of the 17 contradiction and the maze of the capitalism.
Yeah.
He's tried to show this the contradictions that is foundation of a contradiction that is provided by there's a capitalism in the world today. So we need as Africans, we need to look these contradictions of the capitalism. And one of the contradiction is concerned about the use value and the exchange values. And another is very important, is about the capital and the ecological crisis that is the crisis that is faced in the world today is concerning Tanzanian societies, the issue of the climate changes. So it's very also important we need to discuss. And the last point is about the African unity. It's very important. The African unity is also, it is determined the Tanzanian future. Because in 1967, in Tanzania, I said it before, we have the politics of the liberations. And this of the liberations, it was views in the Africans during the particular time as well.
Yeah.
And today we need this African unity. Also to retain the goals and the missions and the vision that was tried to formulated in.
Wow, I think our line
1963.
Okay. Okay, I think we have okay. Now, so I would like to say very big thank you to you for coming on the program. And one book that I would like to recommend to those of you who are listening to us too is a book titled The Price of Inequality. The Price of Inequality. And this book was authored by a former lecturer of mine, Joseph Stiglitz. He worked with, he actually worked with one of those big institutions, and he knows the in and out about IMF and World Bank operations in Africa. If you're someone who is interested, please, if you believe and if you want, you have interest in African development, you have interest in the policy issues across Africa, I'll urge you to read these two books. The Price of Inequality by Joseph Stiglitz.
Joseph Stiglitz. Yeah,
yes.
I know that guy.
Yeah,
I know that guy.
Okay, right. I was privileged to have been lectured by him a few occasions, and when he speaks about development in Africa, you understand, and when he zeroes down on why we have these problems, you understand. The other one I would recommend is the one I said before, which was actually authored by Shoemaker, Understanding the System, Tanzania. First president actually started practicing the Arusha Declaration, and then the villagization exercise, where we're talking about small is beautiful, and when we zero down on intermediate technology that we must use to progress Africa. So listeners, I say thank you very much for staying tuned, and also it's been wonderful having you on the show. What's your favorite music? What's your favorite music?
My music is about the music of Davido.
Davido. Okay, I am going to veto that, and I'm going to give you a song because you keep on mentioning Nkrumah. I'll be playing you. Stay tuned. I'll be playing you a song by Black Rasta, one of the Ghanaian favorite reggae artists who spoke and wrote about Nkrumah, and his cry was that Nkrumah died so early. But because you've been mentioning Nkrumah, I am going to play to you, and when this song ends and you don't hear from us, Joseph, it's been made over here. So.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
We are the king of Africa, Lord God of mercy. This one is a special dedication to ones and ones who hail from Nkrumah. Lord God of mercy. It's a last
Why did you live so soon? I am gonna miss you so. When we are gonna see you again. Kwame Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I am gonna miss you so. When we are gonna see you again.
Kwame Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we are gonna see you again. Kwame Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we are gonna see you again.
Alright. The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it's linked up with the total liberation of the whole African continent. You voiced it as scandalous as thunder and made your mark as the black president. Born some 100 years ago inside in Cromford, you taught us not to fool or carry water in a basket. You walked in the belly of the beast till your shoe sole dropped off, but you still hit the deadly nail into the slave master's casket.
Yes, listeners, that's been a wonderful program. I enjoyed it. Laura, your last words before we go.
Thank you, Nato, for joining us.
Yes, imperialism.
It's good to know more about Tanzania, and I'm looking forward to the show next week.
Good, great. Now, so is there anybody you want to say hello to before we let you go, finally?
Hello?
Is there anyone you want to say hello to before we bring the curtains we draw the curtains down?
I needed to know my partner to these conversations. I don't know his name or her name.
Oh, Lola. I mean,
Lola.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, hi, Naso. I'm Lola.
Oh, from where?
I'm from Nigeria.
Oh, very important.
So Naso, I would like to say a big thank you to you. The audio version, the podcast will be available, and you have a copy to share with your friends and family. So on that note, I would like to say a very big thank you. Listeners, we're back into the studio here. I would like to say a very big thank you for joining us this evening. It's been me, Frank. Your usual host for the Big Wishes program every Tuesday. On this note, I would like to say have a wonderful evening. The song that is there in the background is by Black Rasta. Enjoy the music, and I would like to say have a wonderful evening.
I am gonna miss you so. When we are gonna see you again. Kwame Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I am gonna miss you so. When we are gonna see you again.
Oh yeah, Granny Kwame Nkrumah. You're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from
Thanks for listening.
Oh yeah, Granny Kwame Nkrumah. You're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from mental slavery.
While the others keep on talking, we keep on rocking.
No need to fight, we should unite for the future generation. Oh yeah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah.
Unkoroma. Do re mi fa sol la ti do. Musical soul first echo from the hearts of the rumblers band. A musical leader whose love for black dignity would always be true and remain like the footsteps in the sand. Wake up the spirit of Africa and uphold the name of a great son of the land. Unkoroma, you love Africa so much so that you never looted any booty from the motherland. Hail Unkoroma, Osajefo, Unkoroma. Hail the king, direct descendant of the Nzimala. It is time to pacify the spirits of Unkoroma. Of the whole African continent. You voiced it as thunderous as thunder and made your mark as the black president. Born some 100 years ago inside in Crownful, you taught us not to fool or carry water in a basket. You walked in the belly of the beast till your shoe sole dropped off, but you still hit the deadly nail into the slave master's casket. Oh, Sergeant, Kwame Nkrumah, you shouted, self-government now, when the rest of them still slumbered in the cauldron of procrastination. Yet, imperialism, nepotism, pluralism, and nyafu dideism were never part of you as a man. Black like jerks, or Sajifo,
Call the studio on 0208-133-2257 or 58. Even if you want to WhatsApp if you're calling from anywhere in the world, it's 075-3966-1744. You can log on at www.starradiouk.com.
Yes, you said it with no doubt that we prefer self-government with danger to servitude in tranquility. As a little child, born to Nyaniba and Kofi Ngoloma, and attending school in Hafasini, you were full of ability. Materialism you hated like a cankerworm, as honesty soon made you a celebrity. At Kulungugu, the bombs flew around your head, perpetrated by the enemies of serenity. Oh, God bless, let no one curse. The saying goes with no element of inferiority. Ghana would one day queue to buy common salt. You said it when your government was toppled by some cacophonous drunk soldier man with no dignity.
Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we are gonna see you again? Kwame Nkrumah, boy. Why did you live so soon? I miss you so. When we are gonna see you again?
Oh yeah,
Granny Kwame Nkrumah, you're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from mental slavery. Yeah. Oh yeah, Granny Kwame Nkrumah, you're the great man from Africa. Come liberate my brother from mental slavery. Say me can deny your inspiration for the black nation. No need to fight, we should unite for the future generation. Oh yeah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah. Oh yeah,
Nkrumah, do re mi fa sol la si do. Musical soul first echo from the hearts of the Ramblers band. A musical leader whose love for black dignity would always be true and remain like the footsteps in the sand. Wake up the spirit of Africa and uphold the name of a great son of the land. Nkrumah, you love Africa so much so that you never looted any booty from the